What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, an announcement was made canceling a big event that was coming up in December, and it seems to place Nintendo right at the heart of a controversy. And I don't typically talk about much when it comes to esports, but even this one kind of caught my interest, and a lot of that has to do with some of the questions that are still out there. We'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Starfield, as we got a whole bunch of new details from Todd in a recent podcast, and we'll also be talking about Sonic Frontiers, as it looks like fans of the game are going to have quite a bit to look forward to going into 2023. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're gonna start today with Marvel's Midnight Suns. It's out Friday, so tomorrow, and I've been unsure about this game for a little while because of the card-based mechanics. I mean, it's Firaxis, so I'm interested, but the card stuff is kind of throwing me off a bit. Well, we did have the review embargo lift, and a bunch of those reviews did go live. We can see this now over on Metacritic, currently sitting at an 83. This is on 57 critic reviews, and I think that's a little higher than I was expecting. As I mentioned, if this was more of just a standard tactical RPG, like XCOM style from Firaxis, I was thinking it might score a bit higher, and the card-based mechanic could have knocked it further down, maybe into the 70s or something, but no, people seem to really be enjoying what's there currently. In fact, IGN upgraded their typical average score from a 7 to an 8 for this one, and a lot of this has to do with, yes, Firaxis being experts at their craft with these strategy-based RPGs, and the card mechanic at least providing a bit of a curveball for the overall story, which goes 60 to 70 hours in length. I'm still going to check this one out just out of curiosity to see if they can really pull something like this off, and having the Marvel characters in there is a nice touch. It's just, based on a lot of the games I'm playing right now and still looking forward to close out the year, might be one I get to later on or really early in 2023. Also, the other day on Twitter, we randomly got a look at Masahiro Sakurai's controller collection, which we've seen his console collection just kind of showing off his cabinet he got, and the Switch was sideways, and that was a whole thing, but you can kind of get an idea. Okay, he does a lot of work in games. He probably has a lot of controllers, and well, here's a picture, and he did mention that there's probably another 10 that he found. Yeah, he has a lot of controllers. I mean, think about the size of controllers, how far he had to really get away from this zoom out to capture all of this in one place, and there's a lot of history here, obviously going back with the Super Famicom controllers over there, the Dogbone controller from the top loader NES, and a whole bunch of Xbox, PlayStation controllers here. Even has the Steam controller in the box. By the way, everyone seems to have the Steam controller in the box. How many people actually use that thing? Because even I have the thing still in its box. I guess at one point, they were just selling them for, what, $5 or $10, so maybe everyone else was picking them up then. But yes, there you have it. Masahiro Sakurai, turns out, has a lot of controllers. Oh, and we do have the Game Awards coming up here in about a week, and it looks like we will be getting the big Final Fantasy reveal we were looking forward to. We can see this posted up by Jeff Keighley over on Twitter, saying next Thursday, Yoshi P, producer of the Final Fantasy 16, to the show for a very special live presentation. And yeah, this is where I think we're going to see another trailer for Final Fantasy 16, so more gameplay, maybe some extra story elements there. Certainly, though, the release date, and we're looking towards summer or end of summer 2023, so we are getting to a point where maybe they want to share when we can actually buy this game. I'm kind of thinking August. September might be the latest to me, because we've seen games get summer and oh wait, here it is now in September. So I could see somewhere in there for the launch of Final Fantasy 16. I feel like Forspoken, I don't see as much excitement around that one, and maybe they're holding off on Final Fantasy 16 news to try to put some sort of spotlight on it, but now, yeah, I think we're all kind of looking forward to Final Fantasy 16, so here's hoping we get that release date and a new trailer. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a situation that's continued to unfold over the last 24 to 48 hours, and this has to do with the Smash World Tour Championships. All right, so this is a set of events that's been running throughout this past year, leading up to the big 2022 championships that actually been taking place in about a week or so. Except Nintendo, apparently out of nowhere, sent a notice or a cease and desist when it comes to the big championship event that was coming up here in December, which if we look at their official schedule, we can see was set for December 8th to the 11th. So yeah, Nintendo let them know they can't do that anymore, or at least there'd be ramifications if they did do it, about 3 weeks out. And this was all detailed over on a Medium post that they made, the Smash World Tour official statement, where they said it is with an unbelievably heavy heart that we must announce that both the upcoming Smash Tour Championships as well as the 2023 Smash World Tour must be canceled. Without any warning, we received notice the night before Thanksgiving from Nintendo that we could no longer operate. This was especially shocking given our discourse with Nintendo the past 12 months. Since then, we have been working around the clock to take the proper steps logistically, as well as to prepare this statement with proper legal guidance. Now they go on to talk about some of the accomplishments they've been able to do: 6,400 live events worldwide, 325,000 in-person entrants, making the Smash World Tour the largest esports tour in history. And in fact, the prize pool for this event was be $250,000 overall. And then heading into 2023, the prize pool would have been over $350,000, which is very impressive considering Nintendo doesn't really get involved with any of this stuff. Like, you might think, oh wow, Nintendo's putting up money for that. No, Nintendo doesn't want to get involved in any of this stuff at all. Now, I implore you to go read this Medium article. It says about 15-minute read, but throughout this article, they do describe essentially as how we got here. And a lot of this has to do with them being in communication with Nintendo for a good part of this year. I believe they mentioned April was kind of the starting point, working to get a license from them. And Nintendo does license events, specifically Panda Global's event. Their entire championship tour is one that has gone through the licensing process and has gotten that stamp of approval from Nintendo. And there are some allegations and some mentions being made here in this Medium article, specifically of the Panda Global CEO kind of using the licensing as a way to recruit or kind of present artificial exclusivity, as in if you are part of our events, you can't then be part of the Smash World Tour. And this is sort of backed up by some other organizers over on Twitter. For example, you see LD here, the LD from Beyond the Summit, saying Alan spent several months basically running a protection racket, telling tournament organizers, including BTS, it'd be a shame if your event got shut down for being unlicensed in an effort to scare them into signing on to the Cup. BTS will absolutely never participate in a circuit led by Alan. They do go over several points here from Nintendo as they were in communication with them, saying they reminded us and reassured us that Nintendo is only looking to shut down IP infringement related to game mods. So like Slippy, that was an entire situation where an emulator was being used in order to leverage rollback netcode for Melee, which is a very impressive thing, but Nintendo doesn't want to deal with that, obviously. And also that the Panda CEO does not represent Nintendo and that they would have to have a conversation with him about his behavior. They reminded us and reassured us that Panda's license is not exclusive and that they can see the two circuits coexisting. So you can see why after all this communication, they were caught off guard when Nintendo sent them a notice, essentially a cease and desist for their upcoming championships in December. Well, after all of this happened, Kotaku got a response from Nintendo, and it was kind of strange. We can see this posted up over on Kotaku, this from Nintendo. Unfortunately, after continuous conversations with Smash World Tour and after giving the same deep consideration we apply to any potential partner, we were unable to come to an agreement with SWT for a full circuit in 2023. Nintendo did not request any changes to or cancellation of remaining events in 2022, including the 2022 championship event, considering the negative impact on the players who are already planning to participate. Following up on this, SWT's organizer put out a response basically saying, we're not sure why they're doing this or taking this angle, because we have in writing that they don't want us to have this event. And at this point, we can sort of speculate looking from the outside in as to what we have currently, since the Panda Global CEO at this time has not made a statement on Twitter or anything. I assume they will at some point, because again, there are a lot of allegations getting thrown out there from other organizers as their involvement and even maybe pressure on Nintendo to do things like drop a cease and desist for other tournaments that are competing with theirs. In this case, though, it does kind of look like that from the outside in. And so they seem confused about, oh, Nintendo is saying they didn't shut us down when they clearly sent stuff to shut us down with a cease and desist and notice. This is classic PR speak. Here's the deal. Here's what's happening, all right? Nintendo sends the cease and desist that's like, hey, you can have your event, but I mean, there might be lawyers showing up afterwards, all right? So go ahead with that, but be prepared for the next several years to see the inside of a courtroom because that's Nintendo's second home, basically. So they can technically say, we didn't tell them to cancel it. We heavily implied it with heavy amounts of force in the courtroom being their future, but we didn't actually show up and cancel their event. There's also been a lot of speculation as to why Nintendo would have gone through the whole thing of, oh, you guys are good, we're talking with you, in communication, we'll get that license set up and done, and then all of a sudden they turn around and just cease and desist the whole thing. Was it the Panda CEO leaning on that? Possibly. Really, though, if you're Nintendo, it does kind of feel like Nintendo's the parent, and you have all these kids fighting, and one runs to you and tells on the other, and then you're like, all right, look, I'll do something about that, but you're telling on them, and it's making a big fuss and a big headache. And Nintendo already doesn't care much about any of this. Like, they're just not that interested in the competitive scene for Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or even like Splatoon. They just don't do that much. Not like how you see other companies behind their fighting games put up big prize pools, organize these massive events. Nintendo doesn't really care, want to be involved or any of that. And to be honest, the Smash community and some of the history and things that have come out, you kind of get it. Like, that is like, that there's too much risk involved away from the events with some of the personalities that we may not want to have our name tied to. So that's kind of where we are at this point. I'm not really sure what happens from here other than we need a statement from the Panda Global CEO. And I'm curious if going into 2023, Nintendo's able to license the stamp of approval. That doesn't really mean much of anything, to be honest, because Nintendo's not doing a lot for them, but then they can circle back around and run through 2023 with their series of events, then hopefully their big 2023 championship. Next up, let's talk about Starfield, and several new details just kind of got thrown out there during a podcast, this between Todd Howard and Lex Friedman. Now, you can watch the entire podcast, and I think it was pretty interesting to get some insight along with the different bullet points, but if you want to see the bullet points, I'll link down below to a Reddit post that went through them piece by piece, and there are definitely some interesting snippets in there about Starfield, specifically the reason it's on Xbox or why Todd Howard prefers a console over PC even when it comes to actually playing the game. Anyway, starting from the top, Starfield will have star systems, have levels attached to them. You won't get stranded out in space with no fuel because, as Todd Howard says, it'd be a fun killer. And yeah, that'd be pretty annoying, just kind of have to float through space for an hour to eventually get to a planet where you can get fuel. There will be different spacesuits, and I think this will play into the gameplay heavily as you'll be visiting many different planets, some being maybe better against gases, toxicity, or temperature. So seems like, yeah, that'll kind of be armor almost, but you'll have to change between it depending on your environment. When discussing the Starfield on Xbox versus PS5, he did say that it helps just focus on one platform specifically, although they're going to build it for the Series S and the Series X. They at least get to leave behind the Xbox One because this on the Xbox One VCR would have been something else. Now, he does mention that they had already been working on the Xbox as the primary platform anyway, so the whole deal with Microsoft buying ZeniMax and Bethesda and them having to shift focus over to the series wasn't a big deal anyway. Xbox top engineers are helping with Starfield development on the Series X and S. I'm kind of picturing some of the talented developers from the Coalition, as an example, maybe helping out with different things. Delaying Starfield was tough, but necessary, and we're already expecting it to be buggy and glitchy. It's a Bethesda game. We expect it to be some sort of jank day one, as long as it doesn't completely shatter the experience. And hey, if they gotta delay it, as I mentioned before, they gotta delay it. Seems like a game that's gonna take a while for us to get through and see everything anyway. And get this, says he prefers console to PC, Because he's in front of a PC all day at work. I've said that multiple times. People always wonder, why wouldn't you get a PC? Some just don't want to sit in front of a PC after dealing with spreadsheets and Word documents and whatever else they're doing for 8 to 10 hours in a day. Maybe they want to sit down on a couch with a controller and just play some games. Todd also mentions they limited the amount of planets they could make at 1,000. And a lot of that has to do with having a distinct feeling about each one. 1,000 planets still sounds like a lot. I feel like if they said 100 planets, I'd be like, okay, that's more believable for there to be unique quests and storylines or maybe different bases and setups. I think they're kind of bordering on the line of this feels procedurally generated versus this is a unique experience for each zone. But as expected, Starfield sounds like it's going to be this massive game. I'm looking forward to it, but we still don't even know when it comes out. Like, we should have already been playing the game, right? And now we're just looking towards 2023 and hoping that it's first half of 2023, but I guess we'll find out then. At least now, looking at this, it sounds like there's a lot to look forward to with Bethesda's next big game. Next up, let's talk about Sonic Frontiers, as we had some downloadable content released in the form of a roadmap for next year. And I know people hear roadmap are like, oh, great, we're gonna have all this paid downloadable content that maybe could have been in the game. No. This is all free content that will be placed in the game throughout the course of next year. Take a look at this, posted up by Sonic the Hedgehog over on Twitter, saying 2023 content roadmap. We have the first update, a jukebox, photo mode, new challenge modes, and then update 2, Sonic's birthday. That'd be interesting. Open zone challenge, the new Coco there, and then update 3, playable characters and new story. So Update 3 seems to be the really large piece of content that will be added in here. Also mentioned on December 21st, Sonic will have an entire holiday or Santa Claus outfit. So it's kind of fun, right? But I mean, Sonic Frontiers clearly is a big title for Sega. It's sold well. People, despite its flaws, are enjoying the game, and hey, looking forward to next year having all this extra content dropping in. It's exciting stuff, especially for Sonic fans there, or people who just enjoy the game and want to get more out of it. Playable characters is interesting. I'm looking forward to that, as well as the new story. Maybe there'll just be a whole other zone to explore, a big chunk of the map that unlocks and stuff. So, hey, exciting stuff here for Sonic fans. I guess we'll hear more about this as we get into 2023. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Monster Hunter Rise and how reportedly it's set for release on basically all the other platforms. We can see this posted up over on Insider Gaming, saying Monster Hunter Rise coming to current gen consoles and Game Pass in 2023. They say, yep, that's right. The hit Capcom game Monster Hunter Rise is coming to the Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PC in 2023, and it will be available on Game Pass. Now, this says Monster Hunter Rise will be available on January 20th, and the expansion will follow up in spring 2023, that being Sunbreak. And the big thing here is it will be a full 4K 60 port with 3D audio on those current-gen platforms, and it's already sold really well, over 11 million copies, and I wonder if this is basically another release for them on these other platforms, the PlayStation and Xbox, and certainly into Game Pass. Although that'll be more for the concurrent player numbers, and then they'll sell everyone, I guess, Sunbreak then, who are playing it on Game Pass. I wonder if this is going to be enough to catapult Rise up to where World is currently, around 18 million copies. Basically, will a release onto the PS4, the PS5, and the Xbox Series and One be enough to jump another 7 to 8 million? Because I do see a lot of people who just prefer the gameplay in Monster Hunter Rise over Monster Hunter World. So yeah, I think it's very possible this could be a large spike in sales, especially through the course of 2023, as now seeing this being an announcement upcoming, I assume, at the Game Awards, and it being something that's going to run through 2023, probably means we're not going to have another Monster Hunter game to follow up World until 2024. I mean, at the latest, 2023. And Rise is a game that they can continue selling going forward here on other platforms after it launched on the Switch, then found its way to PC, now finding its way to all the other platforms. So Capcom getting a bunch of releases out of their latest Monster Hunter game. We'll see how this one sells as we go into 2023, but I'm expecting a big announcement for this one at the Game Awards. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. We're asked, have you played Monster Hunter Rise? 70% say they have not played the game. So there are still many people that technically Capcom could sell the game to on PlayStation and Xbox. And going into Xbox Game Pass, I think will allow people who maybe have seen it and looked at it like, maybe you just download it then and try it out. And in Capcom's mind, there's more concurrent players they could eventually sell Sunbreak to, which, as we've seen with Game Pass, they'll kind of give you the base game up front, right, as part of the subscription, and then you can buy the downloadable content if you're enjoying the title. So that's probably Capcom's mind there, and obviously, they got a pretty big check, I'm sure, from Microsoft to launch it there in that subscription service. But yeah, I'm thinking a lot of people are going to be trying out Monster Hunter Rise for the first time. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Comics saying, my Pokemon Blue had 151 Pokemon, including Mew from Game Genie, all leveled up max with max vitamin stats thanks to the missing no glitch and duplication of items. Missed those days and glad to see its return. You know, I'm curious. This is something I've wondered. So back in the day, that was something that was passed around. Hey, there's this missing no thing that will let you duplicate your items. And I'm sure many of us just looked up the steps online if we had access to dial-up connection and all this then, or we just asked our friends to write it down the set of steps you have to do to make it happen. I'm curious how many of us caught missing no, like threw the Pokeball at it, caught it, or you wasted your Master Ball on it or something, because I feel like many people just ran away from it and that was sort of it. But I'm sure there are some that decided they wanted that Pokemon or the Tetris looking piece of computer jargon to have in their party. I did one time in a playthrough and it absolutely destroyed my game after I think a day or two, because I tried even using it in battle. I put it in the Pokemon box in the computer, and when you looked at it, it had like jargon like start to infect the rest of the screen. It was some wild stuff there, but that's what I'm curious about. How many people ran away from it versus how many people actually threw that Pokeball to catch it? And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's the controversy now surrounding Nintendo with Smash World Tour and Panda Global. Do you think they're able to work stuff out here and figure out some sort of resolution, or is that it for Smash World Tour going forward? And then also, what about Starfield with some of these new details? Are you getting excited for this big game from Bethesda? And then Monster Hunter Rise heading to PlayStation and Xbox are going to be trying it out for the first time. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.